Hi there, my name is Trent Dyrsmid and welcome back to episode number 104 of the Bright Ideas Daily Nugget. For those of you who've been following my Nugget videos for a while, you'll know that in video number 103, I talked about the near collapse of my Amazon business. First off, for those of you who reached out to say thank you or to message me on Facebook with your words of support or to send me an email or whatever way you chose to communicate with me, I want to thank you all very, very much for that outreach of caring and support. It meant a great deal to me. So what are we going to talk about today in episode number 104? Well, in a few minutes, or in a minute or two, I guess, I'm going to play for you a video clip that we shot at the conclusion of a retreat that my team and I did over the weekend at our lake house. Now, apologies in advance for the audio. I didn't take a mic like the fancy mic I have above my head. I didn't take a lapel mic because honestly, I didn't think we were going to be shooting any video. But the retreat was so incredibly good that I wanted to capture my thoughts at the time. So we're going to get into that in just 1 second. Now, when you get to the end of that, if you would like, if this is your first time watching a Bright Ideas video and you'd like to get more of the good stuff that's in the Bright Ideas community, there's a number of things you can do. You can subscribe right here on YouTube if that's where you're watching it, or if you're watching it somewhere else, just go to Brightideas.co/YouTube. If you want to check us out on Facebook, we have a very active Facebook group, and that's at Brightideas.co/Facebook. If you would like to check out our podcast, you can do that at Brightideas.co/iTunes. And I think that's everything. All right, so let's hop into the footage that I shot while we were at our retreat. Hey there, everybody. Trent here from Bright Ideas, and we are coming to you live, but not live, from the first retreat that we've ever done. So if you want to zoom out, you can see the rest of the people on the team. It's been a fantastic day, and today the purpose was to take a step back, evaluate our performance of our Amazon business in 2018, and then figure out the areas where we didn't do very well, figure out what we wanted to accomplish in 2019, and set some goals and so forth. And this is something that we've actually never done before. And it's been a really, really interesting experience. We leaned heavily on Brendon Burchard's book, High Performance Habits, which is a book where he did a study on some of the most successful people in the world and identified 6 habits that they all have in common. And I'm not going to get into the details of the book in this video, but I want to talk about one very important habit, and that is the habit of developing productivity. One of the things that we spent a fair amount of time talking about as a group today was how being busy is not synonymous with being effective. And so in Brendon's book, he talks about this thing called PQO, which is prolific quality output. In other words, it's the one thing that you do that moves the needle in terms of results more than any other thing going. So way back in the day, when I had my very first job as a stockbroker, I had to get new clients. And my PQO back then, even though I didn't know what that term was something that a fellow by the name of James Clear, who wrote an article about me, was. And that was this: it was the number of cold calls that I needed to make each and every day in order to get enough leads into my funnel, to land enough clients to be able to become the #1 broker in my class. So what we did today was we identified, first of all, what is the primary objective for 2019? And for those of you who watched my video recently about the near implosion of the business, our primary objective is to increase our gross profit. And then we started to set goals around what is it that we want to do. Liz, maybe you'll take a moment and explain the Google fail forward approach to goal setting, and then hand it back over to me.
Sure. So what Google does is when they're setting their goals, they set goals that seem not attainable. They expect their employees to maybe reach 70% of their goal. So it's about setting the bar really high. You're probably not going to make it there, but you're going to strive way harder than you would if you set the bar reasonable. So failing forward.
And it's not just about working harder. The point of setting these lofty goals is that you don't immediately know how to achieve those goals. So what we're doing is we're forcing a mindset of innovation. So one of our goals is around email sourcing. And so in 2018, Mitch, we sent an average of 300 emails a week when we were sourcing. And of course, then we stopped for a period of time, which is why we fell into the hole that we did. And now we're picking that activity back up again. And so we decided, well, what would be, is sending 300 emails a week a really lofty goal?
Not particularly.
So we decided, taking the fail forward methodology into account, that and when we measure our goals over a quarter, and we decided that we're going to contact how many new companies in the first quarter of 2019?
10,000 new companies in the first quarter.
So that is a lot of companies. There's a lot of activity required to make that happen. Now, we have systems in place to do that, but we're always looking for ways to innovate and improve upon those systems. So if Mitch, for example, I said, I want you to pick a number that you kind of believe you can achieve, but makes you a little bit uncomfortable. Because if we just say, well, I'm pretty sure based upon what we've been doing that we could do 5,000, how much innovation will that force Mitch to do in the systems and the processes that he creates for us to be able to send those emails? Well, how much innovation would you need if the goal was cut in half?
You could get it done with more work rather than innovation.
Correct. The goal is to not be busier. Everybody's busy enough already. Again, we talked earlier about the importance of effective output versus just being busy. So one of the things that we accomplished in our meeting today was we decided that of all the people here on the team, email sourcing, which has been our bread and butter method of increasing our gross profit, Mitch is now the owner of that. And he has clearly defined goals, which we will be measuring him against each and every week. Now then we set another type of sourcing that we wanted to do, and we call that the Dream 100. And so Janine took ownership of the Dream 100. And so we figured out that according to the tactics that go into a Dream 100 pursuit, together we went back and forth and we figured out a goal that Janine felt was kind of believable, but made her feel a little bit uncomfortable. Would that be fair to say?
Very fair.
Very fair to say. A little bit uncomfortable. And so we're going to work, and I'm going to support her personally to help make sure that she achieves that goal or comes as close as possible to achieving that particular goal. So there's a second method of increasing our gross profit that now Janine has total and complete ownership of. Then we decided that thanks to some of the people that I've spoken to, we know that distributor sourcing, while challenging, if done correctly, can actually produce results. And unlike dealing with a manufacturer direct, which is great when we win them, but really painful when we lose them because our revenue can drop so substantially, we decided that one of our objectives for 2019 was, could we cover our overhead, which is about 30 grand a month, from distributor sourcing? And why would we want to do that? Well, with distributor sourcing, you never really lose an account. You might lose products, but you've got a lot of products, so your revenue is spread. It's diversified very well over all of those products. So the chances of suddenly losing 40% or 60% of your revenue, very, very unlikely that that's going to happen. So Liz has taken ownership of distributor sourcing, and now her PQO, and this is going back to how Brendan's book is, 60% of your time should be spent in pursuit of her PQO. So maybe Liz, you could just briefly talk, because I kind of brushed past it, or I skipped it. We didn't really talk about how we're going to organize our time and those funny little things that we're going to put on our desk for PQO. So maybe you can touch on that.
Yeah, so we are trying to set aside 60%. Not trying, we are setting aside 60% of our time to work on our PQO. We have to make sure we preciously guard that time. We're not interrupted. So we're not starting our days with email is a big thing we talked about. And the other thing was to make sure we're not interrupting one another during that time. So we've decided the first 60% of the day is going to be spent on our PQOs. And there's ways that we use Slack for messaging, intercompany messaging, but you can put your Slack on Do Not Disturb. So there's going to be a PQO Do Not Disturb on our Slack. And we're literally going to have either signs or goofy hats. We actually haven't worked out the details. Janine's working on that, so that we aren't bothering one another when we're deep in the most important actions for our objectives.
And I would really encourage you, for people who are, when you're looking, when time is scarce for you, especially if you are running this as a side gig, understanding your PQO and making sure that you are really focused on executing that PQO is incredibly important, because PQO, prolific quality output, in other words, the most important activity, which in our case, and probably for all of you guys as well, which is sourcing new products, make sure that you don't get caught up in being busy doing things that don't move you closer to the goal of sourcing new products. And last but not least, we have our wizard Laura, who's really not very good at Uno, by the way. If anybody wants to kick some ass playing Uno, just get a game going with Laura.
I might be a little bit of a competitive person.
So we decided that this year, and this was as a result of listening to an interview on the Social Media Examiner of a woman whose name I can't remember. Do you remember her name? Anyway, it's called, if you just Google Boss Mom interview on Social Media Examiner, you'll find it. And it was a story of how she has created this thriving Facebook community. And I talked about this in one of my videos recently, the importance of having a Facebook community, because what it allows you to do is have an audience. It also allows you to create an email list. So if you think about having a niche specific Facebook group, what does that give you the ability to do? It gives you the ability to drive traffic to anywhere you want to on demand. If you want to drive traffic to an Amazon product listing and you have a group with 25,000 people in it, some percentage of those people are going to go check out the offer that you post in that group, or maybe you've got their email list, so you're going to send it out on email. When negotiating with brands, or when approaching brands about saying, hey, I'm the guy, I want to be your third-party seller, and they're like, well, why are you any different than anybody else? You say, because I have 30,000 people in a very active Facebook group that's adding, 150 people every single week, and I'm going to be able to tell those people about your products. I'm going to be able to use that audience to help you launch more products. How do you think what kind of impression do you think that's going to give on that brand? Obviously, the answer is a very good one. So Laura has taken ownership of building a Facebook. So the first part is figuring out, well, what niche is it going to be? What avatar are we going to speak to with that group? And then what is the process that we need to go through to be able to rapidly grow that group and create high levels of engagement? As a little side note, those of you who know I have a software app called Flowster. Liz actually turned that interview on the Social Media Examiner into a standard operating procedure, and we will give that to you free if you sign up for a free Flowster account, so make sure you go and do that. So Laura, we decided to come up with a goal for you of how big we wanted that group to be at the end of the first quarter. So what was that goal?
So that goal is 1,000 members.
1,000 members. And what don't you know yet exactly is?
Activity levels, how difficult that's going to be.
Correct. We don't, and it goes back to the importance of how you set goals. If you're setting your goals solely based upon known activities, it's not really a goal. It's just a to-do list item. The purpose of a goal is to make you figure, well, I don't really know how to do this yet, but I'm super committed to achieving this goal, so I'm going to figure out how to do it. So Laura is going to invest 60% of her time into helping us build a valuable asset, an audience, and an associated email list, which will grow more and more and more over time, which we can then use to drive traffic anywhere we want to. And finally, me, what's my goal? Well, I've decided that I need to create, my big thing is to create an audience for Brightideas, because that allows me to monetize that audience in all sorts of different ways. Plus, Brightideas allows me to generate leads for the Amazon business, because I've been able to use the podcast to start conversations. And I like creating videos, which is what we're doing right now. So I decided that my big goal for the first quarter is to grow my YouTube channel, my Brightideas YouTube channel, to 5,000 subscribers. Do I know exactly how to do that at this point? No, I don't know exactly, but what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to go use my podcast to interview other people who own channels who have way more than that and get them to explain to me how they did it. From there, I'll be able to generate a strategy, which I will then follow through the first quarter and hopefully come somewhere close or maybe even blow past that goal. So this has already been a long video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you're watching this on YouTube, I would encourage you to go ahead and become a subscriber because there's a lot more good stuff coming. If you would like to get into the Bright Ideas Facebook group and you're not yet a subscriber, make sure you go to Brightideas.co and become an email subscriber. And when you do, you will get an invite to go into that particular Facebook group, which is a group that I personally moderate and I'm going to become far more active in going forward. And finally, if you have a question for me that you'd like to see me cover in a future video, just go to Brightideas.co/asktrent. Thanks very much for tuning in. Take care. Bye-bye.